I know I'm horrible.
All right, so I would like to, we just started recording. Hope that's okay.
That's perfect. That's cool.
I'm going to give a little welcome and then we'll get started. Okay?
Cool. Awesome.
Welcome to No Place Like Home, the podcast about missing pets. Today I'm recording from my home in Barrie, Vermont, while Fly on the Wall studio downtown, where we usually record, recovers from the recent flooding. I'm your host, Mitch Bernard, and today we'll be talking about missing pets on the other side of the world. So let's get started. I'm excited to have with me Diane Logie, a missing pet responder in South Africa. I know Diane through the Missing Animal Response Network, and she's going to share her experiences responding to cases there. We're going to talk about some memorable cases, which I know she's had quite a few of even recently, and tell us about some things that might be different in South America responding to missing pets than, say, in Central Vermont. So, welcome, Diane.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on your show. It's
I'm so glad to have you. We've talked a lot on Facebook through the network that we're in, but I'm not sure that were we in the same class? I can't remember.
No.
With Zoom.
No, I did a self-paced class because of the time difference here.
Right. That's right. So, I would love to get started with, if you want to tell us about some of these recent cases you worked on. You've had quite a few successes recently.
So I suppose I don't know whether it's luck or it's my dogs. I think it's the dogs. Definitely the dogs.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of successes. In fact, the reason I was running a bit late this evening is because I've just come home from another success, believe it or not.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's one of those ones that we don't actually like. We all want the happy endings. I was on a cat search, getting very frustrated because the cat has just gone poof, and I was just said to them, I'll come back in the morning when it's daylight, and I got called to one about 10 minutes from my home. Border collie, never leaves the yard, and disappeared off the face of the earth. And I immediately took out Axel, even though he just worked. He's one of my more experienced dogs. So I figured, you know what, even though he's just had a cat search, I'm gonna use him because this is a tricky one.
Mm-hmm.
And my gut feeling was that the animal hadn't left the yard, even though the owner had searched thoroughly. I mean, she'd done a really good job. Sadly, Axel indicated, gave me a bit of a decomp indication. Well, he gave me a decomp indication, and I found the dog deceased in some thick bamboo.
Oh.
So it's not the kind of find that us as responders like to have.
No.
And it's not something we like to talk about, but it's a reality of our job.
And for our listener, decomp is decomposition, which is a different kind of tracking. Some dogs don't do both live searches and decomp searches, but Diane has, how many dogs do you have?
That's a good question. I've got 2 fully trained, and then I'm working 3 trainees. So yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. So this must be your full-time gig. Like, you don't have a different job in addition to this.
No, this is my 24-hour day job.
Wow.
I don't have a different gig.
Yeah. Wow. And did you train both of the dogs that you have now? And have you trained dogs before them, or?
So my background is actually a graphic design, believe it or not. But my training background, I was a dog trainer, and then I started getting involved in human search and rescue. So both of my fully trained dogs are originally search and rescue dogs. So it was a transition from the one to the other for them.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, let me just take
it's okay.
treats away from Haley because she gets a bit grumpy. And then, sorry, I'm going to talk while dealing with
no problem at all.
One of my search dogs, come buddy. Would you like to come in the house? Thank you. Sorry, my one trainee search dog, Blob, decided he would finally come in the house. So Haley and Zizu and Axel are trained by myself. It was when I started it, there was no cat to guide me. Are you still there? skills and availability to chat to Kat, Albrecht, and everyone. So I had to train alone. I started with Kat's book, Dog Detectives. And I read it and I was like, it's really awesome, but a lot of it doesn't apply to how we work in South Africa. We've got high walls. It's very different.
Yeah,
So
let's talk about that.
I took what I could, and then I sort of made a plan. And then last year I did my graduates course, and I started with my dog Jet. And then when he passed away, he was on lesson 5 when he passed away.
So sorry.
Then, thanks. That was probably my hardest search ever, was for my own search dog. But then I currently have Blob, who's just around here, and Peanut, who's somewhere around here. They've probably gone to bed. They're in training with Kat. Life has been a bit busy, so we're a little bit behind, but that's tomorrow's problem. We're going to do some fun training with them again. So yeah, and then I've got Cairo, who will start soon with Kat as well. So I've got.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've got the 5 of them that are my working dogs.
That's a lot of work. And training these dogs is not easy, from what I understand. I mean, I've been through the training course to see what it would consist of, but I don't have an appropriate situation to do that myself. But talk a little bit about what that training process is like.
So the process is very similar to training a dog for missing people, except Kat has got this amazing program where she really breaks it down to simple things. So she teaches the dog how to take scent. So she takes it right from the beginning, from teaching it how to sniff, essentially, all the way through decomp training. So her training is very thorough. With Haley and with Zizu, sorry, I'm speaking about Haley because she's right with me. With Zizu and Axel, I trained them very much along the principles of human tracking. So that's how they were trained. So that's teaching them how to find a person, and now we switched over to dogs. And then I have a bit of a different method because I don't have access to cats very much often to train with. So I use teddy bears. I don't actually have one here on the desk, but I use teddy bears with cat fur. It's maybe something I can speak about another time because it's quite in depth. I train using cat fur and teddy bears that look like cats to teach my dogs to find cats. I do things a bit different, but it seems to work. If you look at my successes I'm having, I think
it's incredible. I mean, it's just every post I see is like boom, 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 success, another success. It's terrific.
I know. It's great. So it's the dogs. It's you can only train them so much.
Sure. But clearly, I mean, as we see over and over again among our own network of people who do this kind of work, the training makes all the difference because one of the reasons, I'm going to talk with probably Carmen about this at some point in a later episode, but one of the things that we see is that people, there are groups of people who have encountered trackers who are not really trackers. They take their dog out and the dog looks like it's tracking something because his nose is down, it's following a path, it's excited. And so to the layperson, it looks like something's happening, and they can tell the owner anything, and they can really, the owner is in an incredibly vulnerable position because they just want their baby back and they, would do anything to get them back. And what we have to fight against, what people like you have to fight against, is that stigma that so that people don't believe that all trackers are just out there, letting their dogs sniff, that you really can locate what you say you're going to locate.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about how that, how you know, and how your dogs know, not just during the training process, but like out in the field, have you had cases where there's just no way that they would have found this animal if not for your tracking?
So I'll give you I've got to think of a nice example. But so when it comes to knowing, each dog is very different with their tells. So my favorite example is my little mixed breed Axel, who you've seen a lot of my posts. Axel is this little weirdo. When he's searching and he's on scent, but he's not like close to on scent, both of his ears are down. As soon as his proximity alert, so his indication that he's close to and on really strong scent, his one ear goes up. It's the funniest thing. Like if both ears go up, he's chasing a bunny or he's found a mouse or something. But one ear up is my indication that Axel is really close, that there's super strong scent, and that's my tell with Axel. With Zizu, she starts pulling like a freight train. She goes into this bit of a low crouch. And then I know that Z is close. Blob, everyone else can tell because I start swearing because he's extremely strong. He's 36 kilograms and just over a year old. So
he's a Borbal maybe, or
no. So he's actually a blue tick coonhound crossed with a Dutch Shepherd.
Oh, okay. So he's a big boy.
He's a big boy. So the hound is very strong in him. So when that nose is down, he's on scent. And when his proximity alert is when he's really close, is when he pulls like a freight train. So I have to be careful what leash I use, otherwise I get rope burn. People don't think of those things.
No.
So he pulls strong, and then both him and Axel, when they're right on top of something, they both go vocal. They both Blob, the hound is strong and he starts baying, he starts howling, and Axel gets super excited. Every dog is quite different. So a case where we wouldn't have found, there's so many. I think tonight's one is one where they would have found it. The smell would have been an indication.
So I lost you when you were just thinking about a case, an example of something where you're just confident that, and the owner, I'm sure, was confident that there's just no way that it would have located that animal if not for your dogs.
So I'm just quickly going through my social media here. So perhaps one of my biggest ones was a dog named Tina. Tina, we got called out. The Karoo is 600 odd miles from us, so it's a slight distance. When talking to you guys in the States, I always have to convert kilometers to miles, but
okay.
So that's about a 17-hour drive with stops for the dog. We got called at 3:00 in the afternoon, and at 3:00 in the morning, we departed. I think I even went to the monthly Marn meeting that night before departing. And we arrived. The dogs had disappeared two dogs, Tina and Tommy, had disappeared into an area where there is no water. It's extremely hot. It's up to 40, 45 degrees Celsius. That's what it's like. There is no water. The owners of the property have to bring water in. It's that they've got solar. Their whole roof is just solar panels for power. It's very remote. And Tina and Tommy had gotten out the day before. They'd chased something, we assume, and they disappeared. And it was a dire situation. We obviously had to respond pretty quickly. And so we got there as soon as we can. And we went out searching. We searched immediately, despite the fact that we were all exhausted. And you could tell the dogs were tired. I mean, 17 hours, even though they're resting, it's very hard on them. And we searched, and we picked up a lot of strong scent pretty quickly. And we went in the opposite direction of where the owners had gone searching. They had assumed that the dogs had gone behind them. Meanwhile, the trail laid straight down in front of the house. So we guessed that. Sorry, Haley making a bed behind me.
No worries.
We guessed that they'd chased an antelope down the hill, because there's quite a bit of an antelope called kudu in the area. So we found a lot of scent, but it got, after 2 hours searching, Axel was exhausted. We had Blob with us, but he was quite young, and the dogs were tired. We were tired, and we said to them, you know what? Let's go regroup. Let's get some rest. What we didn't know is that we were probably within 50 meters of the dog.
Wow.
And we, in our training, is when we do our field course thing, we learn about animals following people home. So,
Oh.
you lay your scent trail. And so the weirdest thing is that the only way for this dog to have gotten home was the way that there's a lot of fences. The only way for it to have gotten back to the house was to follow our exact trail. We got back to the house, and we were just putting our stuff down. We were just resting, and the dogs just went totally wild. And walked out to the front, and here was Tina.
Oh my gosh.
She was Lisa. She was hours from death.
Wow.
It really and truly. Her paws were raw. She could not walk. She was severely dehydrated, starving. So fortunately, I had first medical equipment with me because the nearest vet was 2 hours away. So I had Perlite, which is an energy drink for dogs. It's a liquid replacement. So put that in her water, and we said to the owners, just slowly let her have water.
Right.
Just syringe, just the basics. And I said, don't feed her fast. I said, little bits of food. And yeah, so it took 3 days for her to recover. And the only way for her to have been found is because the owners were looking, was because of Axel and Blob picking up.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we went out immediately, despite how tired we were. I mean, I hadn't slept in 2 days, literally. So, yeah, so that was a success. Sadly, we were too late on scene for Tommy. I spent the next week. Hey, there you go. I spent the next week searching for Tommy. I was out every morning with the dogs tracking. Eventually, after having spoken to Kat Albrecht, I realized that I was looking for predators. I think you were one of the people who commented on my post as well. I was doing a predator search. I was trying to find a body. So I'd go out early morning, try and track. Maybe stealing stuff from the kitchen. So and then the afternoons and evenings I was looking for jackal, which is like a coyote, a small coyote, and then crows. And the evenings I would go out in my truck and I try and hear any predator, any scavengers. Sadly, Tommy was never found. After a week, we called it quits. You can't stay on a search for forever. You have to make a decision as to when to call it quits. And I figured after 5 days of brutal searching, I called it quits. But that's one where the dogs were key to it. It wasn't a walk-up find, which everyone thinks is
very uncommon. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, we have lots of walk-up finds, but that dog would have been dead if it wasn't for us going out. So
that's fantastic. What's different for cases where there's multiple pets that go, like 2 cats go missing or 2 dogs go missing together like that? Is it common for them to split up, or do they?
So no, they normally stick together. Okay. So it's very unusual, especially with a very bonded pair like that.
Yeah.
The only reason for them to have split up is that something tragic would have happened, happened. So obviously either he got bitten by a snake or he was taken by a leopard or something tragic happened to him that she left him behind. So usually pets that go missing together are generally found together.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought. So already you knew that something was probably wrong when Tina showed up alone. That's so hard. Yeah, it's definitely the worst part of the job is the ones with no ending or with a sad ending. And I tend to think that the ones that just go unresolved are the hardest, because there's also this, my experience has been that owners feel guilty about giving up too soon. They think if I had just stuck with it longer, or if I had just done this or that other thing, that maybe we would have found him, or if we'd gone out sooner or whatever. And that's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so tell me about some of these predators that you guys have there that I don't think we've got, at least not in the eastern United States. We don't have a lot of desert in the eastern part of the continent, I don't think so.
Believe it or not, everyone, I lived in the States for 2 years when I was little, and I'll never forget everyone thinking that lions roam the streets. Johannesburg, it was my first impression of kindergarten in America. So they don't. I live in a suburban area with high walls. There are no predators around here. So then you get areas where I was earlier where there's jackals. So it's a small dog-like animal.
Mm-hmm.
They're very cute. They make a lot of noise,
Yeah.
but they're scavengers. So the chances of them taking anything big is none.
Right.
They'll take is a small cat.
Yeah.
But they're in the farm areas. They're in the agricultural side. So
Right.
we don't really get them we don't actually get them in town at all. I mean, we have about as much predator life as suburban New York kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Except we don't have rivers with coyotes. I mean, it's very built up. So we in the city we don't have much predators, but when you go out into the more open rural areas, you've got lots of jackal, you've got lots of snakes. So those are your biggest predators. Then when you go further afield, there's another mine graduate, Jess. She works in Cape Town, and they have to deal with leopards in the mountains. They've got baboons. Yeah. We've got monkeys, but unless it's a small dog, they're not going to really mess. But baboons are a big problem in the more rural areas, and leopard are obviously a huge issue in the more rural areas.
Yeah. And you travel pretty far outside. I mean, that 17-hour trip, is that common for you? Like what's your typical, or what's your farthest?
So my furthest was Cape Town, which is literally on the other side of the country. So that's about an 18-hour drive. That's far.
Yeah.
If you look on a map, I'm in Johannesburg. Cape Town is literally like far.
Yeah.
So that's the furthest. I've traveled to East London recently, which was 14-hour drive. I've driven to a town called Palabora, which, if anyone or your listeners know, have heard of the Kruger National Park. It's
sure.
It's on the border of the Kruger National Park.
Okay.
I was called to search for a Siamese cat in Palabora. Typically my travel is sort of max search is about 25 miles on a daily basis, sometimes 50 miles. But I generally stay within the greater Johannesburg region. But I do travel, and I mean my truck is geared for me literally just throwing a bag of clothes in, and I can head. I do travel.
Do you usually do all the driving, or you must have somebody else who can take over on these, double-digit days?
No, I do the driving. I live on a lot of Red Bull, so they should sponsor me because the amount I drink on those trips. But I do the driving. I enjoy driving. It prepares me for my search. I have time to think.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
So I do prefer doing my own driving.
And how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing it for 3 years.
Wow. It's amazing to have that level of experience, expertise, success after that little time. And you're already training 3 more dogs. Wow, that's really impressive. You said that you don't get a lot of cat cases. There are not a lot of people with cats, or just not nearby, or
it's actually the opposite. I get majority of my day is cats. Yeah, sorry, it's the complete opposite. I search for about 2 or 3 cats a day, if not more.
Oh my gosh.
Dogs, not so many. This week has been weird. I've had a good couple of dogs. Hey, Hells.
Oh, hi, baby.
Let me introduce you. So this is Haley. She's a retired therapy dog.
She's so
And
cute.
she sometimes helps us on cat searches.
Yeah. Oh,
So, oh, she's known for her hugs. Hey, Michael.
what a sweetie.
She's very
Um,
sweet. So yeah, so we got
So-
a lot of cats.
A couple a day. How many cases do you tend to have concurrently? I mean, do you have like a
So-
one in, one out? Don't take another one until.
So I do a lot of follow-ups. So for example, tomorrow I think I've got 3 or 4 follow-ups. So I work and I don't charge for my follow-ups because my thing is I want to find the animal.
Right.
So yeah, so I do a lot of a heck of a lot of follow-ups. I actually just see one of my clients have been out to 4 times. It's just made a comment on my Facebook page. So I do about 50% of my day is follow-ups. And then I do 1 or 2 new cases a day. Depends on what there is.
And the dogs go with you on some of
Yeah.
these follow-ups at least because they're doing additional tracks, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I always have at least 3 dogs with me because you never know what you're going to get during the day.
Right.
So yeah, I'm very lucky in the fact that I've got a fiance who's got a big property. So most of my mother-in-laws stay with him, and I'll be moving there soon. So
Nice.
so I can at least I can swap dogs out. They can have a break. Except this one, she stays at home and guards everyone.
Yeah.
So
Does each dog have kind of its own strengths or niche things that it's better at?
So Axel is at the moment my most successful. So if it's anything remotely difficult, I put him on it.
Mhm.
And Blob being a hound, I'd give him the colder tracks because a hound's nose is better. Hey, off, please. A hound's nose is better with an older track.
Sure.
And then I use the Malleys for really fresh stuff because they get excited when they smell a fresh scent.
Sure.
But generally, Axel works a little bit more. My founding dog, Zizu, is semi-retired. So she works selected dog cases only. I've nearly lost her a few times, and I just she got bitten by a snake last year, and then got biliary twice this year already. She's got a blood-borne disease, which means she gets biliary if even if the tick has got the smallest amount of biliary, she'll get it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she picked it up as a puppy. So she's on a very high protein diet. So she comes with me. She's always with me because, well, she's my baby. But I use her for select cases.
Right.
So she's my best when it comes to finding decomposition. So if Axel or one of the others have had a track and I think it might be a sad ending, then I'll take her out the car and use her.
And I know we've talked in our network about how much owners are present for some of these ends of tracks. Like if you think it's going to be a decomp situation, does the owner go with you generally? Do you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we had a debate early in the year about whether we should have a owner with us. I do like having them because the pet's more likely to respond to them. It also gives you an extra pair of hands if you think about it.
Yeah.
If you find something like that you don't really want the owner to see, you can just hold my dog for a minute. Take it out. It's a good tactic to distract the owner.
Yeah.
Used it this evening. I was like, just hold Axel for a minute.
Yeah.
So it's a distraction tactic, but they're there when even if you have the sad endings, but they're also there for the happy endings. Yeah.
It's it's physically very demanding work. I mean, for you, you've got to be in incredible shape, but a lot of owners are not. They must send somebody with you sometimes if they can't make
so
those dogs get running and they go through difficult terrain and everything.
So sometimes the owners just back off, and I had one. When was it last year? Where we were literally crawling through really thick bush, and the owner was like, "Listen, Di, I'm going to admit defeat. But
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to the car now.
Right.
And my poor Malinois jet, he was like so confused because he was like, but you're with us. Like, I mean, but so the dogs are used to having people follow us, but we understand that not everyone can keep up with us.
It's difficult. Yeah. And always with the ravines there, you know, I guess because animals, at least dogs, I guess I understand, tend to gravitate toward water.
Yes.
And that's obviously going to be a lot of times in a ravine of some sort. So yeah, those are the ones that are hell on me.
You know,
I fall every time.
I'm very lucky in that I have a young, she's now 10-year-old, who, when I started this, decided that she would get me fit. And on the farm, she would take me on adventure walks. In other words, she would take me through the thickest ravine bush she could.
Wow.
And torture me with crawling. And so we do that. We do that quite regularly. It keeps me fit.
Wow.
I pride myself in having international human SAR fitness standards.
Nice.
You know, you should be able to walk 5 kilometers with a 5 kg backpack. So you should be able to. So I pride myself in the fact that I can walk a 5 kilometer search with a 10 kilogram bulletproof vest on me.
Wow.
It's completely insane, but I can. But I pride myself in my fitness standards because I will do anything.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're very dedicated in every case to make sure. I mean, a lot of what I see, you know, we have a wide variety, of course, of people, skills and trades and, you know, levels of involvement in this work in the network. And a lot of people particularly in the tracking area, don't make multiple visits, make multiple trips, or if they do, they charge again. You know, it's travel or what have you. So one other thing I wanted to ask about too is around here, we've got a lot of Facebook groups for different neighborhoods and communities. And then there's maybe a statewide lost pet group or something like that. And people will network missing pets there. And I know that it makes a big difference in terms of your ability to track the animal, how long the owner waits. Is there a cultural difference there that you think people?
So it's exactly the same here. There's so many missing pet groups. It's at the social media. I'm actually backing off from social media because it gets a bit much sometimes. I'd rather focus on what I do best. And there's so many different groups, but I do think that there's that cultural thing. If I market it on social media long enough, I'll find my dog or find my cat. Whereas people don't realize that, especially when it comes to a dog, the sooner you get a tracking dog out, the better. I'm working on a couple of cases where one case I've now had to say to them, look, there's no point in us continuously coming out. We've deployed a drone a few times. It's my latest thing. I now have a drone as well, because it's been 3 weeks. And I was called out after a week, and the timing is, you know what, you've got to get out fast. Today's case was beautiful. I was phoned within 6 hours. The result was not so great because we found the animal dead, but at the same sense, we found the animal.
But within 6 hours?
Yeah.
Wow.
So the sooner the better. I mean, I won this week, and fair enough, we did find it on their property, but they phoned me within hours, and I was out there. It was Tuesday night, the Wednesday post. The sooner that someone calls the nearest MAR technician, the better. People, I can't express it enough. Like, we'll probably guide you as to what to do before we come out.
Right.
You're on the radar of the MAR technician, and you've got their attention. You've got someone guiding you. And then if they feel a dog is needed, they're going to tell you. So,
We haven't really talked about that yet on the show, but what are the things that would make calling a dog better, or not a tracking dog not a good idea versus call one right away?
So that's a bit of a tricky question, but not really. So if the dog is been gone for a week, I would honestly rather check your shelters. Within 72 hours, I think it's cool getting a dog. Where getting a dog as soon as possible. Don't wait days. That makes a huge difference to the availability of scent. And also, if you think about it, people pick up dogs.
Yes.
So
they sure do.
Your chances of your dog being picked up, if you phone hours versus weeks, there's a huge difference. So the sooner we can get out, the better. As you've probably realized this week, I don't care what time it is. So I would rather respond and sacrifice my sleep, because time matters.
It magnifies the chances that you're going to have a successful find.
I know Jess in Cape Town, she's actually worth talking to as well. She has a very strict limit as to when,
after so many days, she just won't go.
It's very strict. So she's extreme, and she's good that way. She's not going to waste her time and the client's time.
So, I mean, because I think people might not understand, but each call that you go on, each track that you go on is physically taxing, and it takes time away. It's a zero-sum game. If you take, 6 hours, that's 6 hours you can't be doing something else. So I think it's totally appropriate for people who do this kind of thing to set boundaries and say, we're not going to take that, because if something else comes in that's more likely to have success, we want to be ready to go take care of that.
In general, I'm lucky in the fact that people generally do call me pretty quickly. And my lifestyle, so that people need to remember that not every marg technician has the lifestyle that I've got. That I can just literally, someone phones me, I can go. There are more technicians who've got kids.
Kids and full-time jobs, and all kinds of commitments. So there's difference. I mean, so we can't expect everyone to jump like I do. I'm more of an exception than the norm, because I think Kat called me a bit crazy last year with some of the stuff I get up to, but that's me. And do you market yourself, or is everything just come to you because people hear about your work and they?
So it's a lot of people at Facebook, they tag me. So I don't actively go and search for work. Other people will see a post and they'll tag me and get other people to phone me. I do my marketing by sharing my successes. But you're going to see in the next couple of weeks a bit of a change with my social media. I am getting someone else to take it over. I want to focus on what I enjoy. I really do not enjoy sitting behind this desk. This desk is my nightmare. So I don't want to sit and do social media when someone else can do it. So we're going to start with more education for the public.
Great.
So we're going to start doing things a little bit different on my page. So that's like brand new. I actually only met with the guy yesterday. So so I do most of mine's word of mouth marketing.
That's great. I mean, at least that part you don't have to, because marketing yourself can be one of the hardest things for people who are in business for themselves, because their skill is in doing the thing they're in business for. It's not necessarily marketing. And
look, my background is marketing. So initially that's what I spent a lot of time doing. I mean, I built up a really nice following on my page. But that was my knowledge from my previous company. I worked for the biggest pharmacy chain in the country. So
nice.
So I had a really nice solid foundation in marketing. So I had a little bit of an advantage. So if any MAR graduates ever want a little bit of help with their page, I will happily help them, because
that's really nice of you. I'm sure they'll be glad to hear that.
So it's important to grow. I mean, if we need to work as a community to find the animals. Like if we work in our silos and just go me, we're not helping the animals.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's most helpful about these courses is that you do then afterward have the network accessible to you. And, I see a lot of people on our Facebook groups asking for advice with this kind of case or that kind of case. And, somebody out there has tried everything, which brings me to the drone thing that you mentioned. There's some controversy about using drones, I think, in terms of, I guess it's not controversy about do you use them or not, but how they're used, that people without a lot of experience like you have in dog behavior and particularly missing dog behavior, what are the dangers of somebody in that position, someone without this kind of training and experience, trying to use a drone to find a missing dog?
So a missing dog doesn't act like a normal dog. In fact, I've got behaviorists who've told me that they won't touch a missing dog behavior because it's not their field, because it's so different. You can have super friendly Jack Russell suddenly turning into an aggressive, horrible dog who's skittish because they're scared. So the behavior of a missing pet is very different. So when you put up a drone, dogs don't like them. It's a horrible, annoying sound. And the chances of chasing them is great. So I personally won't use a drone. I won't use one initially. If I can avoid using one, I will. I've flown a drone before for searches, and then I thought I'm not wasting my money. But I've got one case where I actually had to go and buy a small drone because dog tracking is no longer an option. It's just, I'm wasting everyone's time I'd rather cover more ground. And in this case, I'm using the drone strategically. I'm trying to flush the dog so I can see it. Yeah. So I'm actually using the drone as a tool to get the dog out of hiding. So you've got to use it very skilled. Kat, there was a recent members meeting where drones were discussed, and drones they're not the be all and end all. Everyone goes, oh, let's get a drone on there. Right. Leave that drone alone. Like, keep it in your truck. Keep it at home. That's your last resort. Unless you've got a thermal imaging drone with a spotlight that you can deploy at 2:00 in the morning. But and be prepared to actually bring the animal in at that time. Yes. I mean, I think a lot of the instinct that people have when their pet goes missing is call them, follow them, go look for them. And, that has the same effect. Like you were saying, that they feel chased and they will put them on the move. And the danger of that, of course, for our listener, is they might head into more difficult territory or terrain to be located, or they can head toward traffic. That's the big thing, I think. We had a recent case where we tracked the dog, and we immediately realized trapping was the only option. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the owners didn't follow our advice, and they kept chasing, to the point where they eventually went, okay, maybe Di was right. And they started listening to me, and we put up a missy trap, and then the dog was spotted. We'd done exactly as we're trained. You feed in it, the food was being eaten, and we were literally setting the trap, baiting the trap when someone spotted the dog. Wow. And I said to everyone, okay, cool. Egos aside, everyone's going to listen to me. So I kind of went, guys, and I've got the most beautiful video ever where the owner walks out with his other dog. He sits down, and the poodle comes out to his other dog. That is how it's supposed to play out. Yeah. Instead of chasing, because we're all like, oh my word, there it is, and they rush towards it. Yes. And the dog yes, of course. It took 6 days to capture Sophie. Wow. And she's a pregnant poodle. She should not have been out there in the wilderness for 6 days. So chasing the animal is it's a big no-no. Just slow down, stop. Like, literally. Yeah. And the frustration to me is all of those days that they were not listening to you. By the time they decide, oh, okay, maybe the stuff we're doing is not working, we'll try the things that Diane's saying to do. By then,
a lot of the things that would have worked at the beginning are not so effective now, or, like, just the scent trail itself
Yes.
has gone so much colder. So especially, I know weather can be, it can have an effect, and, in these extreme heat areas, that's,
Yeah.
Look,
I'm fortunately in Johannesburg, and we have our temperatures are pretty mild. I'm sitting middle of winter, and it's apparently a really cold night, and I'm not even, my front door is open.
Yeah.
I'm not freezing. This is Johannesburg,
Yeah.
but apparently we're expecting. Well, we had rain earlier, but they're expecting snow again. But we don't get snow like you guys, so
Yeah.
it's snowflakes, and by the time they hit the ground, they're gone.
Yeah.
And that happens once every 10 years kind of thing. So we don't get the extreme cold. So, but people need to listen. We haven't spent all of our time and money and everything studying what we're doing. You've got way more experience than I do. Hence me calling on you and a few others on a regular basis. But people need to understand that when we say don't chase, we're saying it not for any other reason than don't chase.
Yeah.
We're doing it for the safety of the animal.
Yeah. I think it's just so counter to what your instinct is, especially, with your pet. If you're at home and you call them, usually they're going to come. What to expect at home, and that behavior just completely changes so much when they're displaced. And I think people just don't appreciate how drastic that change is, even for the people they love the most,
Yes.
Well, thank you so very much for coming. It was nice to just have some one-on-one time with you. I'm just going to do a little wrap up here, if you can bear with me. I want to thank you and our listener for joining us today. We'll have some links in the show notes, which you can find along with the resources for owners and finders on the show's Facebook page, which is NPLH, as in No Place Like Home, Mitch, all one word. We always appreciate a rating and review on your podcast app and a follow on Facebook. If you have questions or feedback, you can contact me through Facebook or email me at nplhmitch@gmail.com. Until next week, this is Mitch Bernard, and remember to always think missing, not stray or dumped. This podcast was created, hosted, produced, and recorded by Mitch Bernard. The opinions expressed on this show are those of the people expressing them and do not necessarily represent the views of Aired Out, Fly on the Wall, or any other entity. Thank you.